Welcome back to Journey to I Do with Magic. I will be continuing with hashtag Wine Obey, which is under the relationship series conversation that we started with the last episode. I would like to thank you once more for the feedback and all the comments that you gave. And as the show continues, I will address some of the questions that you have. I am so privileged, and I thank God for the fact that He started this journey. Because one thing I can assure you, you cannot say you are starting a journey and think you can just talk and not actually go through the emotions and the feelings and the realities that it has to start with me, because before I can even present it to you. And it has been a challenging time, and also just an awakening of not only the dreams and the hopes that I've had, but also just walking my own walk of healing, my own walk of understanding why certain things were done, and how I can let go and adapt and allow the new me and the newness of what God is trying to do in my life to come forth, so that I can actually add the value that He wants me to add into your life. And I think it's more for you than it is for me. I'm just a vessel, and it only shows me the magnitude of how much He loves you, for Him to put me in the spotlight and make me have to work, so that I'm not just speaking of things I'm not sure of or things that I read about, but from my own personal experience. And that is how I hope this impact and this value add will be as much of an impact to you as it has been to me. One of the questions that we're asked, which I think I need to get back to, is how do you know what your purpose is? And for me, like I said, the referral manual is always the Bible. Every great person in the Bible was given a glimpse. It was never a full portrayal or God giving details of this is what you need to do. It is always one word or one instruction that only when you obey it and you start doing it, as you're doing the journey, then another instruction follows. So it's like a puzzle. At a certain point in time, you only have one piece, and you know that this piece contributes to some bigger picture. And some people know the bigger picture but don't know the details. And what is key is always to understand, or to go back to, what are you passionate about? What is the one thing that keeps you up at night? What is the one thing that sometimes when you're sitting and you're thinking of that ideal moment when you reach that crucial point of your life, you feel like you would have arrived or you would have done something? That is what your purpose is. Some people's purposes relate, but one thing about purpose, it cannot only serve you. That much I can tell you. It has to involve other people. It has to be bigger than just you. So for some people, their purpose is to be someone who provides for their family and saves their family from poverty. For someone else, it could be children. You have a heart for children, and you have a heart that one day maybe you will open a shelter. For some people, they're just very passionate about economics, and they can sit and read up on economics the whole day, and you're like, what the hell, you know? And someone is passionate about politics. So it's that thing that no one else needs to understand it, but it is what separates you. It is that thing that even if no one else, I know I have a friend who her thing is arts, and she's just like, but why don't you guys love arts? Why don't you guys love the theater? It could involve that, but sometimes your purpose just needs to start where you are. Because for me, for the longest time, I've always known that I'm passionate about people. I love people. I love encouraging people. I love motivating people. How that played or showed forth is with my own family and my own friends. I am that person whom my friends and family confide in me. Even strangers, I walk to places and sometimes I'm just stunned at the amount of things that people just freely open up and tell me about their lives. And at the same time, God has also given me the grace to be able to understand and somehow give some form of advice. And if it's not advice, pray for them. And continuously, purpose is the thing that even if you're trying to run away from it, even when you're not thinking about it, it just comes naturally to you. The key thing, or the important thing, is that once you identify what that purpose is, then coming back to the relationship topic, where I was saying you need to now identify, can this person fit into the purpose? So for people who maybe their purpose is people, and they want to open up their home and give of their finances to people or whatever, you now need a guy who is compassionate. a guy who is understanding, a guy who will not be getting upset when you invite your colleagues or you invite guests, or who will just be rude to people. Now you need to find a man who's a bit more on the people receptive side. And not to say that people are perfect, and I'm not saying that this man you meet will fit perfectly into that puzzle, because remember, he will also just be a part of the bigger picture, and he will be a puzzle. So he might not necessarily, he will not complete the whole picture. He will just be a part of it. And some elements, I know we want what we want, and sometimes we think my idea of my husband, he will come and will automatically be that. But one thing that I'm learning, as much as I am not perfect, no matter how much I prepare, no matter how much I try to make sure that the single period prepares me to be a wife, I will never be fully prepared until I get into it. And that's the nice thing about this journey, is that you never have to reach a point where you're like, you know what, I'm done. Because the only people who can say I'm done is maybe people who don't have the privilege of leaving anymore. As long as you're still alive, the journey never stops. So I am not perfect. I know this man will not be perfect. I might need to teach him certain things. As much as we acknowledge that we're not perfect, we somehow expect perfection from other people. I mean, I'm sure my exes were sitting in the first episode saying, yes, yes, it has always been her. It has always been her there, yes, you know? Because that's the thing. We would rather point fingers than take ownership. And purpose needs you to take ownership, not only of your great parts about you, but also the bad parts about you. If you don't accept and acknowledge that I am not perfect and I need to take ownership of my own flaws and the things that I do in relationships that can counterfeit or mix up or mess things up, and you continuously thinking the other person needs to be perfect, that the other person needs to be your supporter, your cheerleader, he needs to be there, he needs to provide, he needs to do this, he needs to do this, when you can't even be all those things for yourself. He can't even be all those things for himself. And that is why companionship is important. Because first of all, we both acknowledge that I cannot be everything on my own. However, I also cannot expect you to give me everything else that I can't give myself. So preparation in the single period also needs you to learn to find something that you pull strength from, to find some form of, if it's an activity that you do when you're down, if it's reading a book, if it's you knowing that you need to take a vacation if you're feeling a certain way, if when you're going through stuff you have a confidant whom you speak to. All those things need to already be in place now. It is two individuals coming and becoming one. Individualism cannot end. You are still two individual people. You still need to have your own life. You know those people who get married and now you want this guy, you want him to be everything. He must be there. If he's not there, you die, or you can't even eat. That is not healthy. And to depict, or the picture for me whenever I think about this analogy, God had to put Adam to sleep. I love that, because it means he had to be silenced. His own opinions, his own understanding, his own beliefs of what kind of companion he needed, because God looked at him and said it's not good for him to be alone, right? He could have had other ideas. I think I need a bigger tree, or I need version 2.0 of apple, and I need to be able to eat that apple unlike the one I can't eat. He could have had his own ideas of what to him probably will be a companion based on everything that was surrounding him, but God had to put him to sleep. God had to be like, yeah, I know you are wise, I know you have ideas, I know you think you know it all, but sleep. And in his sleeping, that is when God took out a part from he could have taken from any part, but he took a part that God, because he created him, he knows where the right part will come from. And when Eve was there and he came now into the opening and the awakening and saw Eve, this is the bone of my bone and the flesh of my flesh. What does that picture depict? At some point, God will have to put us into a place where we forget, or we put aside our own ideologies of what a perfect man is, our own ideologies of what a perfect woman is. What makes you think you can fully tell what kind of the right man you deserve or the right woman you deserve. There's still things I genuinely think I want from a man, but you know me better. You know who Khuthazo or who Magic will be 20 years from now. And bring me a man whom you think through it all, he will still say, I choose her. And that is a very key element. Allowing ourselves to not just say, I want him and he must come as I want him to be. Because I promise I will not be 100% what my husband wants. And neither will he be. But how do we now then make the choosing if we don't let the one who even chose us to still even be alive be the one who somehow also plays a role in how we choose? Can I now say it is important for you to pray for your spouse? I mean, people love sitting and talking about how their in-laws are a certain way and so forth. Maybe you need it. It is what is training you to be the person that you need to be. Challenges doesn't take away the fact that something can be validly what God ordained for you. I mean, if that was the case, we should question life, because life in its own has its own challenges, where if every time you encounter a challenge, you're like, why am I even alive? Then you will wish death on yourself every single time, because challenges are what lifts us up from one place to another. Single is anyone whom at home affairs is not married, divorced, or widowed, okay? The fact that you're in a relationship, or you guys are engaged, or you guys are in a committed relationship, or we're still assessing if maybe we'll get married or whether. If this ring is not here, honey. See? However, if the ring is not there, I'm sorry to say, but you're still single. But it is not a bad thing. It is a good time. Even in that committed relationship, pray for your spouse. Pray for his career. Pray for your own lives. Where should we live? When should we have kids? When we're praying for our kids, what kind of kids do we want to have? Okay, babe, you have certain traits. Okay, you know how sometimes when you speak to men don't necessarily listen, right? And then you find yourself on repeat mode, and it's like the more you speak to him, it's the more he gets frustrated. I think I've learned something. Not everything needs to be taken or spoken to a man directly. Take him to God. You know why? He created this human being. He knows what happened in his past that maybe he hasn't disclosed to you, or maybe he's not even aware of it, because you know men don't talk, right? And as for us women, the only time we realize some of these things is when we talk about it, that actually wounded me. But because men internalize everything, they also still don't even know who wounded them, where, how, when. They are just now acting out. But you can be like, Lord, there is this man in my life. We have decided we want to date or see where this is going. Okay, I don't like using where this is going, because I hope the intentionality part of why are you even trying to know this person? Are you if they're friends, it is known, it is a friend. But if you guys get to a point where you move from the friendship and you're now like, I would like to get to know you with the intention that I would like to see if you could be someone whom I can spend my life with. He might not necessarily vocalize, or you might not necessarily vocalize, because you know how these things are, where people never actually all feel the same way at the same time. And there's always a fear of, should I say this or should I not? But mentally, everyone mental-wise, you know what your intention when you're spending time or investing time in someone is. So that is the intentionality part. So once that stage has kicked in, and now as a guy, maybe you're now thinking, this girl is actually amazing. Maybe I need to start studying her towards assessing if she can be someone I can date, or vice versa for a female. That is when now you can even say, Lord, there's this woman whom I'm looking at, there's this guy I'm looking at. Reveal certain things about this person to me. Show me how they are when they're upset. Show me how they are when things don't necessarily go their way. And I'm not talking about, he said, let's go to McDonald's, and I said, no, let's go to Spay. And oh my gosh, he did a U-turn and he's like, okay, we're not going anywhere anymore. Okay, that's a red flag. Obviously, that is a red flag, but okay. I'm talking about serious life changes where maybe he loses his job. What does he do when he loses his job? If he's a guy who claims he doesn't drink, does he now start drinking and going wild? Or does he still stick to who he is? I understand people who say you need to know someone and you shouldn't just get married, get to know this person. For me, the question mark is, for how long does this need to happen? I strongly believe it doesn't need to take you 3 years or 2 years or however long. God can reveal a person to you in 6 months, in a year. And I'm praying to God that My husband doesn't take 3 years for him to get there. I will be married at 35. My God, no, I don't want that. So I'm praying. It's an intentional thing where you're like, Lord, reveal who this person is to me. And also, if it's someone you want to grow with, it should be okay for you to speak to them and say, babe, I think you have anger problems and we need to work on it. The same way I would want a man who doesn't just see me in my glory or think Kuti is so amazing, because Kuti is not always amazing. Kuti has days where she's just like, I want to kill someone or I'm so upset, or why is this going this way, why is this happening to me, and I just want to shallow in my own and just sulk and be sad and allow myself to be sad. I'm not always encouraging, I'm not always positive, I'm not always hey, it is well. I don't feel like it is well. And when you tell me it is well or it will be well, I'm just like, you don't know what you're talking about. That is human nature. But this person still needs to speak to me, and somehow my spirit